Hello, everybody, and welcome back to VolleyTalk. We are back with another week. Billy is back. I know he wasn't here last week. We had Kelly last week. But this week we are going to be doing something kind of similar to what we did with Kelly last week, but now with Billy. We are going to be answering questions directly. Any questions, comments, any sort of like criticism comments, or any questions that we have really on any of our social media posts. And we'll be going through those with you guys and really breaking down what we see in the video versus what comments are seen. And then Billy's response, of course, to everything as well. So I'm really excited for this episode. It should be a fun one. If you guys have any questions or anything volleyball related that you guys want to know, please feel free to ask, and we will get right into the questions today. But first, I'm going to let Billy introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. Billy Glisson, founder of Powercore 360. I'm a strength coach, exercise physiologist, 20, 25 years, something like that. Long time.
Yeah, super long time, which is great. So he'll have a lot of advice for us to share today, which will be amazing. So I'm going to switch the orientation here a little bit. So everybody, you can see the video, and then we have the comments here as well. So we're going to start out with just what this video is. So this video is a boy at one of our clinics, and this is his before and after swing. So you see some really big changes here. And the question to the audience was, do you spot the differences? So Billy, looking at this, some of the comments say his arm locks, then swing, and also he jumps vertically. Another one says he jumps forward in the second clip, and in the first clip he jumps forward, in the second clip he jumps up. Also, we had some about making his approach lower. I think lower to the ground. That means maybe in a better loading position, better arm swing, jumping closer to the ball instead of jumping out. And then we have some that are, before he swung his arms back and jumped and waited for the ball instead of waiting for the ball after your arms swing back. And when you have the right timing, then you jump and swing so that your swing is smoother, which is what happened in the result. So that's interesting. We have definitely a lot of questions here. So another is he definitely rotated his body to the ball and fully snapped his wrist. Opened up more, pull his arm further back and got on top of the ball. Somebody just said shoulders, so his shoulders are different. Another is he opened and closed and got more on top. And then the last one we see here is target arm and extra step. So going through, I know there was a few more that I left out there, but Billy, could you tell us what you're seeing for the differences in this video for the before and after?
Yeah, well, and I'm obviously very biased because we've been focusing on in all sports, teaching the body to really turn and rotate, use whole body rotation, hit the ball harder. And in volleyball, instead of just swinging your arm at it, which when I see the initial swings in the white shirt there, yeah, he's jumping vertically, doesn't really open his chest. It's a lot of arm. There's not very much body rotation whatsoever, hip, spine, core, anything else. So I really like the last swing. He's in the black shirt there. His whole body's rotating. He's opening his chest to the right sideline more. He's turning his body back through. He's going to hit the ball harder, and he's going to put a lot less stress on his hitting shoulders, right shoulder, because he's got big muscles, a lot of big, powerful muscles working instead of just kind of swinging his arm. So those are really, for me, with my bias, I'm first and foremost looking, is he rotating? Is he opening and closing and turning through the ball? He is. That's the first thing I see. And in my eyes, my bias, the most important thing I see from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I just want to address some of the comments we got here and talk about maybe why that isn't what's happening here. The first one I want to talk about is he fully snapped his wrist. I think we hear this, snapping the wrist comment a lot. Could we break this down? Is that what is happening here? Is that why his ball is getting hit harder? What is that not maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a function of snapping his wrist. His wrist may or may not, and I'm looking at a small video, so honestly, I can't really even see what the wrist is doing. But, our objective is not to snap the wrist harder or more. Our objective is to get the whole body rotating, which he did. The other thing I'm going to say, and then please come back to the question, Darian, is in his initial swings, he's landing on foot only. for knee injuries, especially on female athletes. They tend to land on one foot, the left foot, if they're a right-handed hitter. You have your ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, which is at risk. When you look at his post swings, he lands, his body completely rotates. He lands on 2 feet facing the left antenna. That's other stuff I see. Now, back to your question. Is his wrist snapping more or less? Maybe, but that's not the objective. The reality is when you talk about like purely really good overhand throwing or hitting mechanics, we're really not trying to teach a wrist snap. We want the wrist loose because it will help allow, especially on a topspin ball, a ball that's going to go with topspin and go with lost and drop on the court, a looser wrist and forearm, and actually just a looser hitting arm, right arm in this case, is going to allow him to create more topspin, probably hit more ball speed, more arm speed. But what really happens in terms of the shoulder, we're getting the shoulder to rotate. And so I'm going to try to give everybody a visual here. When the hand comes up behind the thumb is down, and then as they swing, there you go, as we swing through the ball, the shoulder rotates and we go from this thumb up position. We're making contact as the shoulder is rotating inwardly. The forearm's rotating inwardly, and the hand is actually rotating through. That's called pronation, right? And that's the natural movement of the shoulder when we hit or throw a ball overhead. That's naturally because of the structure of the shoulder, the way the muscles attach, the way the mechanics of the arm naturally moves. That's what's really happening. So we want the arm to come through faster. We want the elbow to extend. We want the shoulder and the forearm to actually pronate faster. If they have a looser wrist, you might see, depending on the ball and the set and all that, you may see some wrist snap in there, but that is really not our objective, is to teach wrist snap. We want them to basically create arm speed, contact the ball, create top spin, hit with velocity, and of course, score ultimately. So,
Yeah. Those are some great points. We're not necessarily saying snapping your wrist is going to make you hit the ball harder. I don't think that's the goal here. I think that we hear that a lot in the volleyball world. I know a lot of athletes hear that all the time, that you just need to snap your wrist to hit harder and hit the ball in. But I think there is a lot more to it than maybe some people or kids are taught.
I'm just going to touch on a little of the science stuff. We've talked about this before. In kinesiology terms, for the science geeks out there, we talk about summation of forces. In other words, summation means adding, right? Basic math. When you rotate your whole body, you're using the forces, and especially when he's in his black shirt and he's jumping at the end. His feet are kicking. He's using the power from his legs. He's adding that or summing that to the power that's coming from his core and abdominal muscles, to the arm and chest muscles, right? He's using his whole body and summing or adding all those forces together. That's really why he's hitting the ball harder. It's the whole body working. And yes, his arm speed's coming through faster. He's making better contact and all those things. But that's really the benefit of turning the whole body. Hit harder, less isolated stress on the hitting shoulder, the right shoulder in this case, because the whole body's doing the work. So in the big picture, that's why I would tell you that's what's going on. And it's no different from throwing a ball. If you try to throw the ball just with your arm, and then you take a step and let your hip and body open and close, turn if you would, you're going to hit the ball, throw the ball, whatever you're doing to a ball, much harder because you're adding all those forces from big muscles instead of just tiny little muscles around the shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good point. I know we got a little bit in the weeds there, but I think that those were all really important points to make for this scenario. So I want to move on now to another post. So there's one from our clinics. Here's one. The simplest way to hit harder fast is to throw something while rotating your body every day. So if you want to get better at hitting fast, we just encourage our athletes to go learn how to throw and then transition that into hitting. So that's something that's really huge for us. But we have some interesting comments here that I want to go through. Maybe some hate comments you could say, but we have some interesting ones. So first one is, this is a great drill, but they do not need to cross their body for better control. This comment did get almost 300 likes, and then we responded and we just said, hey, we tell them to contact the ball straight through and then let their arm go across the body for shoulder health. And kind of Billy can get into that later, but we got a response that says, they should be falling through straight forward, not crossing their bodies. Doing this will cause a lumbar extension injury. This form will not help them when they need to hit straight. This will cause bad form, in my coaching opinion. And we had a lot of people agreeing with that comment. So I want to address that first. Billy, could you maybe talk about that comment of the lumbar extension injury and if that's true or if it's not? Oh, Billy's, there he is. Hey.
Cool. So lumbar extension, let's define a couple terms so everybody's at least trying to hopefully maybe be visually on the same page. Extending your back means to arch your back, okay? When you're following through, whether you follow through on the right side of your body or which is what we teach, extension your back's actually going to flexion. So we're not creating any kind of extension event or motion when we follow through on the right side of the body or left side of the body. The spine is actually going into flexion. So we'll correct the terms there. We're not concerned about extension there. Really, let's talk about this. And it's not, and I don't know if that was the question that was posted, but I want to clarify some things that were said as well. Let's see, Darren, maybe, okay, it's not about control. We're not teaching the people to take their arm to their right hand to their left hip if they're a right-hand hitter for control, ball control or anything else. This is about basically the muscles that slow the arm down are up behind the right shoulder, the external rotators, they're in the shoulder blade. They're actually the fascia that goes from your right shoulder blade for your right-handed hitter, literally down to the spine, and then literally across through the fascia, this elastic connective tissue that will go to your left hip and actually your left hamstring to slow the arm down, because injury prevention, most overhand injuries from overhand throwing or overhand hitting do not occur as the arm is speeding up. They occur as the arm is slowing down, and it's the muscles on the back side of the shoulder, back side of the back, if you would, that are trying to work to slow the arm down. When you take the right hand down and keep it on the right side of your body, and I'm just going to be honest, this is old school volleyball. It's not based on any anatomy or science, right? It's based on somebody's opinion years and years ago that the hand should come on the right side of the body. When you do that, there are very few muscles or elastic tissues, fascia, that can help slow the arm down in that position. No other sport in the world, and let's use baseball. We're almost to October here, World Series time. We're talking about the best pitchers in the world going to the World Series. Nobody throws a ball overhead and throws and follows through their right hand on the right side of their body. They're throwing 90, 100, close to 100 miles an hour, some of them. You wouldn't be able to create as much velocity. If you did, you would be back to having a lot of shoulder injuries in baseball. And right now, the last 30 or 40 years in baseball, shoulder injuries have kind of went away. They've been replaced by UCL, elbow injuries, but the shoulder's not really at risk, and it's because of the follow through. If I follow through throwing a ball, throwing a rock, throwing anything, and I let my hand naturally go to the left hip, then the muscles behind the right shoulder, the fascia behind the shoulder, they even go across the back to the left hip and the left hamstring are actually going to help slow the arm down. So it's really about, you can hit the ball hard a million different ways, some good ways, some bad ways. But if you're concerned also about hitting hard and not injuring your shoulder, maintaining the health of your shoulder, then every other sport in the world, once again, baseball is a great example. Everybody Google, turn on a major league game tonight and watch what the pitcher does. The right hand goes to the left hip because that's the natural movement, and that's the natural way the body will slow the arm down, going at high speeds, and protect the shoulder from injury. The shoulder doesn't know if it's hitting a volleyball or throwing a baseball or a football. So the movement, the anatomy is still the same. The proper biomechanics to hit hard and reduce the injury potential on the throwing shoulder is to let the right hand come to the left hip. It's not about control. It's about deceleration. It's about injury prevention. It's less isolated stress on the shoulder if the right hand goes to the left hip.
Yeah.
It's not my opinion. I'm just restating the science and the anatomy and the biomechanics that's out there.
Right. Yeah. This isn't something that Powercore 360 just made up. So it's definitely not something that we're worried about a lumbar extension injury in this case or in these drills with throwing for sure. So I want to also get to another comment here on this post, and there is something called a weight room to hit the ball harder, basically, is what they're saying. What is your response to that, Billy?
Yeah, we talk about this. Weight room is great. I'm a strength coach, and so going is great, right? It tends to work big muscles and it tends to work general movements. When you start to get into throwing a ball or hitting a ball overhead in volleyball, a very specific movement, there's other muscles that when you go in the weight room, a lot of those exercises never really touch. All right, really going to try to get into some science and make it simple here, right? A lot of weight room exercises that I teach and train, right? A squat, a lunge, an RDL tend to train athletes, especially volleyball athletes, to go vertical, right? So they might do a lot to extend and go vertical. If you're trying to jump high to block or jump high, those are great exercises to train the big muscles, the quads, the calves, the glutes, the back, the arms, the chest. A lot of those muscles, or most of those muscles, are designed to help the legs extend, the spine extend, and to jump vertically. But in volleyball and in a lot of sports, we'll talk about volleyball hitting here, there's not only vertical components, vertical movements, there are forwards, linear if you would, and there are rotational. And so when we're doing our approach, we're not just concerned with doing an exercise to jump higher. So we've got to do different exercises to create different movements of the body. One, to do our approach. Then we're going to jump vertical. And in the air, when we open our body, we turn our body to the right, turn to the left. We got to train the body to be stronger rotationally. The muscles involved in training the body to rotate are not the quadriceps. They are not the hamstrings. Those are muscles that flex and extend the body, the ankle, knee, the hips, the spine, right? Most weight room exercises traditionally are flexion extension exercises. Great exercises, but they're not the whole enchilada. If we're going to train rotation, it is different muscles, and they're called stabilizers. They're the tiny little muscles around the pelvis, around the hips, around the spine, around the shoulders, around the shoulder blades attached to the arm. They rotate. They will increase the speed of the rotation of the hip, the shoulder, the arm, the hand, right, to hit harder. And now from an injury prevention perspective, you have to train them not only to be stronger, but now we use the word control, stability. Now we want to control the precise movements of the arm, the chest, the hip, and all those things to hit hard, control where the ball is going. And then we want to slow the arm down, slow the spine. These are the tiny, everybody Google this. Stabilizers are little movers, little muscles way deep in around the joints, and they control the joint movements. Super important, right? The big prime movers, the quads, the back muscles, they create big forces, but most of the time vertically in volleyball. They're important, but if that's all we did, we would be weight room strong, right? And we wouldn't necessarily be able to go and do our movements efficiently, precisely with power, right? So they're both important. We're not saying don't do weight room exercises, you do. But if you're 100% of your strength conditioning program is in the weight room, you're not hitting the ball as hard as you want to hit because you're not working on those precise mechanics. You're not strengthening the muscles that make the hip, the shoulder, the arm, the hand rotate through the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. I think that you made some really important points in there. I want to read one more comment that we got from this post too, and this is a good one. It says, I do this for volleyball every time we warm up, and it really does help more with overhand serving power. So, somebody found success doing this drill and has found success, and it has helped them in their volleyball playing, which is great. So I want to move on here to some more videos. Let's see. Where I exited. Sorry, guys. 1 second. All right. So we're just going to go through. This one right here is a really interesting one. So I want to listen to it once, and then we will go to reading the comments.
Arms already up here when you start. Keep it back here and do everything else you're doing. Cool? Grab a ball. I'm going to hold on your arm. I will let it go as you go to swing. Okay? Nice. That girl. Do the same thing again. If that arm stays back longer, you're going to hit the ball a lot harder. Cool? Yeah. Your arms are.
Awesome. Did everybody hear that? Let me know if you could hear it, so that way the audience, I can confirm that you know what we're talking about. But Billy, did you hear that?
Yes, I could.
Awesome. All right. So The question or comment we have here is, am I misunderstanding what he is saying? It makes no sense that you would hit harder if you hold your arm back longer. It's a whip action, same as throwing. You wouldn't hold your arm back as a pitcher or a quarterback.
Actually, that's completely false, and here's why. Here's how the anatomy works. You have a couple of chest muscles that go from your right upper arm, the humerus bone, and they attach into your clavicle, into your sternum, right? The biggest one is called the pectoralis major. So many athletes come to us, and when they swing their all arm and they never get their arm and elbow back, they never get a stretch on this muscle, the pectoralis major, that attaches to the arm here and goes across. And it's a big fan-shaped muscle. It has fibers that go up to the clavicle, and almost like the lines on my shirt here, they go across to the mid part of the sternum, the bottom of the sternum, and it's this big fan-shaped muscle. When you get the arm back, if you're throwing a baseball, a football, a javelin, hitting a volleyball, any movement you do where you keep the arm back, you get it back, you're stretching the pectoralis major. You're also stretching the fascia, that elastic tissue that goes from the arm there. So you get this big whip, not just with the body, but you're actually getting now whip with the arm, right? So it's huge to get that going. And once again, part of the rotation and creating whip is not just turning the hip and shoulder, it's actually getting the arm back so we can get these muscles on the front of the arm and shoulder, the hitting arm and shoulder, to stretch and load as well. And just like a rubber band, those muscles, when they get stretched, they're going to fire on their own. When the hips and shoulders start to turn from right to left and the arm's coming back, it stretches. And once again, it's a reflex in the body called a myotatic reflex. In the strength conditioning world, it's called stretch shortening cycle. The muscles, the fibers in the pec major, when they get stretched by keeping the arm back, they fire on their own. These muscles fire and shorten really quickly, bring the arm through with much more force, much more speed, much more velocity than the athlete can consciously make happen, right? So we're trying to train that, and we want that. And that's how every quarterback, every good pitcher, anybody that throws or hits a ball overhand, yes, that's what they're trying to do. Here's another important point that you're not asking about, but I'm going to help other people understand this. When we go into the high elbow setup, we don't really get the pec major stretch very much, right? So we don't really, people teach the high elbow, they get it up. You're not going to hit as hard as you can as if you bring the elbow down under the chin, get that stretch in that fan-shaped muscle, the pec major. Now we're going to use the hip, the core, and the muscles, the front of the pec, internal rotators on the shoulder, all those muscles. Once again, summation of forces. We're adding the forces from the arm, the chest, the shoulder, the core, the hips, everything that's being stretched and activated. So you're going to hit the ball harder. You're going to protect your shoulder, spine, and body in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that we could talk about that comment, because I don't want people misunderstanding, I guess, what we are saying. So that is really great. I also want to go, here's a good one. I want to have everybody listen to this as well, and then we're going to talk about a comment again. So everybody, 1 second. I will play the sound.
And your shoulder hurt. Raise your hands. Does that ever happen to you? A lot of hands are going up.
It should be one or two athletes in the whole room raising your hand. It's like, in my opinion, my words, almost like an epidemic in volleyball.
Off the weekend tournament and your shoulder hurt. Raise your hands. Does that ever happen to you? A lot.
All right. So in this video, obviously, we're at a clinic and we're asking, the athletes, how many of them have been to a tournament, and after a tournament, their shoulder is really hurting and are having shoulder pain, not just soreness. And a lot of athletes are raising their hands at every single clinic we are going to, which, for reference, we go to clinics all over the nation. So this is something we're seeing consistently all over the nation. It's not just in one state or one spot. The comment here is, ask how many of them had feet that hurt that same day. Tournaments are long and tough. Pain does not equal injury every time. And this classroom vote does not justify your nonsense shoulder mechanics that flies in the face of decades of coaches.
Yeah, where do you start? I mean, that's, to me, it's like an old school mentality that we're just going to push. We're not going to listen to the body. Just okay. Our opinion is, and I mean, let's review your first year as a freshman. D1 scholarship, review it. And when did the pain start for you?
Yeah, the pain started right after my freshman year, after the spring season, which is a lot of heavy reps because you're practicing the whole time, no really off days, and you're getting a lot of reps every single day. So then going into my sophomore season, after a few games, I really couldn't lift my shoulder. My shoulder still clicks every single time I raise it. I still have shoulder pain if I'm working out and doing certain movements. So that is something that not only happened to me, but to a lot of my teammates. I had a lot of teammates that continued to hit. I mean, I did not. I then switched to libero, but I had a lot of teammates that just had to keep hitting if they were middles, like they don't play another position. And, they wouldn't be able to sleep on their shoulder at night. And, we're all 18 to 21 years old. So it's not like we should be feeling this extreme pain, but that is something that happened to me during my college career.
Yeah. So, and I want to, I guess, talk about something as well. Not every time you have pain means you're going to have an injury. And I don't know, I wasn't here this last week. Kelly may have touched on this, but there's a difference between muscle pain that's a result of muscle movement after an event, right? So could be any sports event, but in this case, you go play in a volleyball tournament or a match, and you have some soreness in different places. Soreness as a result of use in the muscle, especially in muscle tissue, and especially like in a muscle belly. So if I'm showing my bicep muscle, it attaches to the elbow and up to the shoulder. If I have pain in somewhere in the muscle belly, maybe not a big deal because I've used it and I've used it a lot, maybe with a lot of velocity. We're not saying that any soreness indicates you're going to have an injury. But when you start talking again about now pain that gets down into the joint, you start feeling pain that you can't like palpate and put your fingers on the muscle like, oh, it's right there. You try to roll that out, the soreness goes away, maybe that's okay. We're talking about pain we start having in deep in the shoulder, in the elbow, in the spine, different body parts, right? Joint pain is not a good thing, right? And those are like giant red lights flashing that we should be listening to our sons, our daughters, the athletes we're training, and understand if they're having those issues, that's the body warning that maybe there's bad mechanics, maybe there's overuse, right? Whatever the case is. There is something called DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness, right? And guys can go Google that once again. If you're in the strength conditioning world, you get it. So let me explain what that is. Let's say we take somebody today, they haven't been doing really any specific exercise. Let's take a bicep curl. Everybody knows what a bicep curl is. So you go in the gym, you pick up a dumbbell, and you start doing it. Maybe it's 10 or 15, 20 pounds, doesn't matter the weight, but you haven't been doing that exercise for months. You pick it up, you lift it, you set it down, and then you go home, and it felt good while you're doing the exercise. The next day, delayed onset of muscle soreness means there's a delay. You start to get sore maybe 24 to 48 hours later, the muscle gets sore. You haven't injured the muscle, but you've stretched and loaded, and the little fibers in the muscles got stretched. And actually, there are probably some of the thinking still is there's maybe some micro tears that go on, not necessarily injury, just work. That's normal. I would expect there to be, even in a conditioned athlete, some delayed onset of muscle soreness after an event, after a tournament, right? But it should not be in the middle of your shoulder joint, the middle of your elbow, the middle of your spine. It might be on the surrounding muscles. And once again, you recover, you roll it out, and the soreness goes away. Great. But that's not the pain we're asking about when we're talking to the athletes in the clinic. What we shouldn't see is what we see all the time, which is 12 and 13-year-olds after every event, after every practice, going home with soreness. If you're training and conditioning, then you shouldn't be having delayed onset of muscle soreness because you don't have that if you've been training consistently, right? It usually only happens when someone's deconditioned and they do a new exercise for the first time. The soreness goes away. This is soreness that's happening for athletes in their shoulders, in their spines, maybe in their knees, and it's usually because of mechanical issues or strength conditioning or, hey, a lack of strength conditioning, or it might be overuse. They're just doing too much, and no longer can their joints support it because the muscles are getting tired, the kid's getting tired, and now the joint's starting to take a toll. You start getting soreness, it might be cartilage, it might be ligament, it might be tendon and other things that start to get inflamed. And if you don't listen to that, it can create a lot greater risk, right, for injury. That's what we're trying to stay away from.
Yeah, that's very well put. I think this is something that is very touchy. I think we get a lot of different comments, a lot of different opinions on this. And a lot of the times it is just saying, kids can suck it up. It doesn't matter if their shoulder hurts. But like you said, that is something that, it's a body warning sign. It's a joint that is aching. It's not a muscle. It's the shoulder joint that is hurting these athletes. So definitely something for coaches and athletes to get educated on, and really, and parents too, and anybody that is really watching the sport, so that way we don't get comments like these saying that these kids just can't handle a long tournament and it's fine. So yes, that's very interesting. We have a couple questions here I want to get to on YouTube, so I'm going to stop sharing the Instagram screen. This one is, I am 180 centimeters. My reach is 3 meters. I do plyometrics. How long does it take to improve height, and how much should, I guess, one expect to improve?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns in that. Like, are we talking about an 80-year-old, a 14-year-old? How long have they been training? One of the biggest predictors of probably someone's ability to jump high, in this case, vertical jump, is explosive power. It's thank your mom and dad, because it's what mom and dad gave you genetically, right? If you have a lot of genetic inherent, in other words, tissues you were born with in your calf, your quads, your hamstrings, your back, your butt muscles, those are jumping muscles. If you have a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers, then your ability to jump higher is going to be much far greater than the person that was, that was born and their mom and dad didn't give them a lot of fast twitch. They gave them slow twitch. Here's what that means. Slow twitch means they're not going to be very explosive. They might be able to run forever. They can run. They've got a lot of aerobic abilities. But we're talking about power explosiveness here. So what I don't know about this individual is how old they are, what kind of muscle fibers they have, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I can share with them. Generally for us, when we do our vertical program, we're dealing with 13-year-olds through probably 15 or 16-year-olds most of the time. They are young athletes. They come into us. A lot of them have never trained before. They've never done strength conditioning. They haven't done jump mechanics. So they're basically really green, right? They're very inexperienced. We're not in a rush to do anything with them that's going to hurt their knees, hurt their back, right? We're going to take a long, slow, but a successful boat to getting them better. So we have a 12-week vertical jump program, right? The first 4 weeks is a lot of base and foundational work where we're teaching them mechanics. We're not in a rush to go put 200 pounds on the bar in the squat rack, hurt their back and hurt their knees. We're going to do a lot of things where we're going to teach them how to move. And the first month is very careful, very much foundational work, right? Really, then for us, we start seeing in week 8, week 9, week 10, we start seeing really nice changes in the athletes we're working with. Could we make the changes faster? Absolutely, we could. If I had a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old athlete with a really good strength base and they come into me or to us and they've been training for 4, 5, 6 months in the weight room, they're healthy, there's no knee pain, no back pain, anything like that, they've got a strong base, I'll bet you in 6 or 7 weeks we could start seeing the vertical improvements for them, because the program would be different. We could come at them a little bit more, not aggressive is not the word I want to use, but just faster, right? We could accelerate the changes in them because they come in with a different strength base. So for us, once again, the athletes we're seeing, a lot of 13 and 14-year-olds, some 15s and 16s, but they're just starting. We're not in a rush, in my opinion. The words I use, I'm not in a rush to do something stupid with them. I want to build a good foundational base. I want to teach them the mechanics. And I look at it if they're 13 or 14, we don't need to maximize their vert this week or this month. We got 3 or 4 seasons to slowly, progressively build mechanics, build strength, and improve their vert, right? So that's we take a longer term perspective on the athletes, and just because that's what we care. We care about the athletes. We care about making them better performance-wise. We also care about not tearing up their shoulder, their back, their knees in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some great questions today. I always love going through all of our comments like we did, and debunking anything that maybe was commented that we don't agree with, or seeing what people are agreeing with out there. And also when we post things like the before and after, and learning, helping our audience learn what to see when you're looking at before and after results, and figuring out what is the difference in this swing, and helping our audience really understand that. I think that's stuff that's really awesome. So thank you everybody who joined today. I want to close up with a couple of different announcements. So we have a couple of different fun things for you guys to check out. First of all, our fall 2024 clinics are now available. We are in Tampa, Chicago, Denver, Seattle, Las Vegas, Nashville, Plano. I think I got all of them. So if you want to travel to any of those cities or you live near any of those cities, make sure you check those out because they are selling out fast, and we want to make sure you have the opportunity to go to a clinic this year if you would like. So like I said, these are only clinics left for 2024. So make sure you sign up if you've been really wanting to go to a clinic. Also, we are looking at doing a baseball clinic. I know that this is our volleyball account, but if you guys see, we also have a baseball account. So if you guys or anybody that is on here has any sons that play baseball and you guys are interested in going to a clinic, where do you guys want that baseball clinic at? And if you do, you play baseball or you know, you have a kid that plays baseball, make sure you also check out our baseball account because there's some really great info and videos out there on the baseball side of the world too. So thank you guys for joining today. Billy, do you have any closing thoughts for the day?
Just expand on that last comment that number one, I do know even girls here locally that play baseball, so they're welcome to attend.
Yeah.
And then softball players, the baseball clinics really focus on hitting and pitching, and they're really about hip and shoulder separation and developing safely, like arm power, arm speed, bat speed, ball speed, right? And so it works for softball, it works for baseball. We've been doing this for a long time. It's really the best thing we do in those sports, right? With the product and in the clinic. And that's so anyway, all genders, baseball, softball, either one works. And you're welcome to attend. Let us know what cities you'd like to see us in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining today. We hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and we will be